Okay, last story, because I definitely that does have to come to an end at one point. We did something called the Z Media Institute. It was a session that we would hold in the summer, and people came from all over the place. And it was to teach media skills on the one hand, and politics and vision and strategy on the other hand. And so, a few
Was
hundred people, maybe six
that,
or seven. Hmm?
was that the thing Ben Burgess was teaching
No,
at? No,
no.
okay.
Okay, so he's now teaching in an online school that I put up.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay, so no, this is no longer happening. But anyway, so one of the sessions is about 60 to 70 students, and we would have as faculty various people who would come. Uh, so we taught, but we had everybody. I mean, lots of different people, including Noam. And so Noam came, and of course everybody was into Noam. Uh, uh, and the discussion, I can't reproduce it exactly because my memory isn't good enough. But when he would give a talk at night, he would do stuff during the day, and then at night he would give a talk for the 70 people, and we'd all be sitting around, and it's informal and so on. And basically, people could ask him anything they wanted. And yeah, it was sort of mind-boggling because there'd be somebody there from, I don't know, Bulgaria, who would ask him a question about Bulgaria. And the fact that the guy lived in Bulgaria was irrelevant because no one knew it better than he did. And that would just happen time and again. So it was sort of, I'm very close with Noam. I've known him for 50 years. But when you watch things like that, it was quite striking. But anyway, somebody asked him a question. And I don't know why. I can't remember why. But the question was about uh, technology and its sort of evolution and development currently, and about Japan's role. And in answering the question, Noam said something like, it's really pretty unusual, or it's pretty surprising that if you look at, for instance, the hard sciences like physics and biology and chemistry and so on, the Japanese don't stand out. They don't even have their percentage, their what you anticipate percentage wise. They have much less. They don't seem to be that good at that for some reason. But if you talk about reverse engineering and engineering in general, they're absolutely the best in the world. They're incredibly exemplary. This was some years ago. And in the audience, a subset of people, mostly black, actually all black to begin with, right, went berserk and felt, and this was Noam, who was their hero 20 minutes before, was now their enemy. So in other words, they spun the words to mean that Noam was a racist against the Japanese population. I'm not making this up. And they were really irate. And then a subset of the whites, for whom Noam was, it might as well have been their dad, right? I mean, they were so rooted in experiences of his writing and on, would immediately fall into line. And some of us had to spend 2 or 3 days to undo this, which was ridiculous. What Noam was saying was that there's, he was then asked, and the more he said, the more difficult it became for some people, even though what he said was, well, look, different cultures are different, and the history of different countries are different. And it turns out that when you look, you can say that this phenomenon is there, and then you can look at why. I mean, you can also say, for example, that by and large, women in Japan are, have a different role than women in the United States. I had a friend who was asking me if I wanted to come to Thailand to speak, and I said, sure. And he said, well, you got to understand something. When you come in to speak, people are going to sort of bow down. People are going to be very, very, obsequious. I don't know what word to use. My vocabulary isn't that good to you because you're speaking.
They're gonna kowtow.
Yeah, and you can't challenge that. And I said, well, then I'm not coming to speak. But the point was, he wasn't being racist toward Thai people. He was talking about something that was a phenomenon that existed in Thailand due to its particular history, et cetera, et cetera. And the same with Nome. But the extent of anger that was evinced at this was the earliest example I had of what I think became cancel culture, right? It was totally like to serve self and to elevate one's, I'm cool. I just criticized Noam. Nowadays, it's I'm cool. I just got a faculty person punished, right?
Yeah.
So you're exercising some power and you don't have much. And I can empathize with it, all right? But it's devastatingly destructive.